Welcome to Melanin Combos, a sisterhood of mom friends having relatable and unorthodox conversations while holding space for each other and amplifying Black voices. Welcome to Melanin Combos. I'm Nikita, your host, and today we're going to be talking about postpartum care. I know we talk a lot about baby registry, but we don't really dive into how to plan for the postpartum experience. So we're going to talk about that. Today I have with me Jessica. She is the owner of Soul Care Christian Counseling. She's a mom and a wife and my friend. And we're going to dive into this conversation. Hi, Jess.
Hi, friend.
I really want to talk about, and we've talked a lot about postpartum, just the overall experience and a lot of the things that we weren't prepared for or no one really talked us through.
No.
So I think that's really important and on brand with Melanin Combos. So we're just going to jump right into it. But first, we'll do a mom moment so our viewers can get an idea of who you are, just get a little bit more comfortable with you. So can you share with us one, embarrassing thing that you've experienced as a mom?
Oh man. Okay. I think it's really around breastfeeding.
Okay.
It's really around breastfeeding. So I have a few, but one that I can remember is I was at one of our friends' house, mutual friend, and I had just finished breastfeeding jail in the
I'm so nervous for this story. I don't know this story.
I had just finished breastfeeding jail in the basement. And so I come up and whatever. And I think that what happened was I didn't put back my dress up. Oh. Yeah, so then my whole breast, not the whole breast, but like the bra was outside. And then one of our friends, Guy, was like standing right there. And then his wife was like, oh yeah. And I was like, she's like, Jess. And I was like, oh my bad. And then our guy friend started laughing, of course. And then he was just like, it's okay, I seen it before.
I mean...
So I would say that's like one of my
That is actually embarrassing.
Yeah. Or like when the milk would just leak.
That's happened to you? Like on your clothes?
Yeah, just wet.
No.
Yeah, because it was just flowing. So it would just be wet. Just soak through the nursing pads. Yeah. Or I have another one where like breastfeeding was not easy at all by any stretch of the imagination. No. So this lady was actually part triggering, part embarrassing, part annoying. The lactation consultant, she comes in and she's like touching. She's like, oh, hey, okay. And I was just like, I don't know you, but yet here you are touching up my breast. So yeah,
fun times.
Good times. Yeah.
Great times. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
those were embarrassing. But I mean, I guess it's our stripes.
Yeah, these kids better put up some respect on my name.
Our battle scars. Tell us about your introduction to motherhood. Like, how long did you wait before having your baby? Was it an intentional wait? How was that introduction for you?
The introduction to motherhood was very interesting. So we did wait, but it wasn't it was like part intentional, part not intentional. So we were married, I think, either 5 or 6 years. 6 years before we had our baby. Originally it was like, we want to wait a bit, maybe like 2-3 years before we have her settle in, like each other a little more, things like that. And then when it came to a certain point, we're like, okay, like we're ready. And then that period took like, I think 7 years. I don't know. So essentially the waiting period was 5 years. And that was not intentional. No idea what was happening, to be honest, in terms of the doctor was like, you're fine, there's nothing wrong. Right. So, and it was never labeled as unexplained infertility or any of those things. It was just like, you're fine, type of thing. So we just had to like wait it out. And it was really hard to wait it out. It was really, really hard, especially like watching other people like, have their children, people who got married after us, people that we mentored and stuff like that. We're just like, oh, everybody's having their baby, type of thing. So the introduction to motherhood was very interesting and it was hard.
Yeah.
But then it was also exciting when we found out.
Of course.
Because it's like, as much as we were trying and wanting, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm finally pregnant. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
What do I do?
What do I do now? And I would say first trimester was really hard because you worry about like aspects of like miscarriage and the nervousness around that. Second trimester was pretty okay, and then towards the end, as you know, of the second trimester, it was like
it was a roller coaster.
No, anything that was worse than a roller coaster. It was like you have gestational diabetes. Yeah. I was in the hospital a few times. You have cholestasis of pregnancy. What is that? Literally, when you research it, it's common among Portuguese women. Do I look Portuguese? Do I look Portuguese?
No, not at all.
At all. So yeah, so my introduction to motherhood was very interesting. And then my baby was in NICU.
Yeah.
For I think 13 days. So that was hard. There was just a lot of things that I didn't expect to happen. And I think one of the biggest things for me was like leaving the hospital without my baby.
Yeah, of course.
That was probably the most traumatic thing ever, to be honest. It's like you have this vision of like leaving the hospital with, you know,
you're in the car seat, you're in the wheelchair,
you know, and the kid is coming out, and like I remember just looking at Princeton and just like bawling because it's just like, why am I leaving the hospital without my kid?
Right.
What's happening? I'm gonna have to come back. Like, what do you mean? So I would say it was a rough one, but thanks to community and so forth, the transition worked itself out.
Right.
But yeah, I would say that was my transition to motherhood.
I feel like motherhood, like, it's never what you actually expect.
No, ma'am.
And I don't even know what we expect. Like, thinking about it, like, what did we actually expect? Because it wasn't like anyone was like, okay, this is what to expect. I think maybe like media and like movies. And I don't know, but it's just like, it's never what you think in your mind will happen. Because it definitely wasn't what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Either.
Yeah, I think for me, I had enough friends around me too to be real with me, like when you told me about what being induced means,
right?
And I was like, you don't gotta trick me, you don't gotta tell me twice. I will not be induced.
No,
you know,
it's not fun.
So I voluntarily chose a C-section over being induced. So I think one of the things for me that was helpful was having friends,
right,
to ask different questions. And then I think I wasn't surprised by certain things because I was able to say, hey, Nikita, what was your experience with this? Or you would just tell me, or the same with Sam or anybody else. So
yeah, no, definitely. I think that is essential and helpful, like for people to be around people who will share that experience openly. So that you're not surprised. I think that's the big part, not being surprised and being able to go to your doctor and be like, oh, I heard about I don't know, preeclampsia. What is that?
What is that?
How does that relate to me as a Black woman? What are my likelihood of
that part?
Like, what is this, right? So just being able to have information and to ask the right questions, really. I think that is important. Okay, so what info did people share with you about postpartum? And did you feel prepared?
Oh, man. I would say, as I said, my friends were really honest around their postpartum experience. And being the person that I am, I did a lot of research. Yeah. I think the generation before us, their concept of postpartum was more like, I just had to do the thing.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're just going to get her done. And I was like, this doesn't sound right, type of thing. And so like asking those questions was really important for me. So I did a lot of research around postpartum, and I'm a therapist. So I'm just like, what is this? How is this going to affect my mental health? And before I even had a baby, before I was pregnant, I've experienced depression. Okay. And so I was just like, I know. Yeah.
We're not going to try this.
We're not doing this. Like, I couldn't see myself like navigating through that type of depression and having a baby. Yeah. Like, I couldn't even care for myself. So how would I care for the baby? Like, what would that look like? Right. So I think it was just like asking the right questions and doing a lot of research. So I did a postpartum plan. Yeah. I did all of the things. I had my whole, what do you call that thing? The bulletin board. Yeah. Like poster board up with like affirmation cards and things like that. And I'm the type of girly where I learn from other people's experiences. Yeah.
That's why they're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, if so-and-so went through this and this was their experience, what can I do to mitigate that or to lessen the chances of me going through that as well?
Right.
So that's how I really navigated through it. I watched other people's experiences. I learned, I did my research. I watched a lot of YouTube videos and I put together my postpartum plan. So,
nice.
Yeah.
I remember when I was about to have Nolan, one of his godparents was telling me, okay, like, think about your postpartum plan, like run a meal train, and like get people, because you're just not gonna have the energy. And it's true, like we didn't, and like that first 2 weeks we did have a meal train, and like it was wonderful. And then like both of our parents were off, so they basically fed us. And it was so important and so helpful. And I do remember my mom saying, like, when she had me, the next or maybe 2 days after, she was at the store.
Doing what?
She had to, I don't know what she had to get, but then my godmother called her and asked her, what are you doing outside? And she's like, I had to go get stuff. And just like, wow, I couldn't imagine going outside 2 days after.
No.
I couldn't even walk stairs.
No, C-section is not to play with. And I think another part of the postpartum plan too was like I planned with like my mom. So my mom was there. My mom was there pre-baby. So there was 3 weeks. She was there for a week. So she helped clean up the house, things like that, food. And then there was my mother-in-law. So we had good help for I think like Dale's first 6 to 8 weeks of life. Which was really helpful because we would get up in the morning and my mother-in-law would be like, okay, like you can give her, and we went back to sleep, kind of thing, right? And those type of things were helpful because your body is adjusting.
Absolutely.
Your body's going through such a whirlwind, right? So that was also part of the postpartum plan. Yeah,
definitely. I think for the moms that were like in my predicament, that were in COVID, a lot of like, I think a lot of my plans, like to have like my parents around helping, having my mother-in-law, like, and these are people who would have helped willingly, but everyone was so scared of either getting me sick or getting the baby sick. Like, they just didn't want to chance it. So I definitely think like the moms that are watching that are COVID moms definitely can relate to like just being isolated and feeling alone. And just the idea of like things not panning out, like and having to grieve that. I think that was a big part of like my postpartum experience. Just grieving like, oh, like this is not what
I envisioned it to be.
And it's just like, oh, so what do I do now?
Kind of thing.
So we talked a lot about a postpartum plan. Let's like define like what is that? What is a postpartum plan? What exactly do you put on this plan? Why should someone consider spending time creating this?
I think within branding of Melanin Combos, I think Black women, we are more susceptible to everything. Just everything. If our white counterpart is 3%, we are 10. Like maybe 15, right? So we're more susceptible to everything. And I think that's the way we have to look at things. Unfortunately, that's just a part of our journey. And so for me, I was like, well, if I'm a Black woman and I'm more susceptible to postpartum depression, I need to fix the equation in some way. So for myself, at Soul Care, as a therapist, we have something called a Soul Care plan. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to switch this to a postpartum plan. So the 5 pillars of Soul Care being spiritual care, body care, community, self-love and acceptance, and mindfulness. So what does that look like for me in my postpartum period? So mindfulness, I got some affirmation cards, scriptural affirmation cards from Daily Grace Co. Where they were literally postpartum prayers and affirmation cards. So I put them up. And I had my postpartum plan, who were people that I could call in case of anything. And for me, community was a really big piece of that. I didn't want to feel lonely during my postpartum, and I really didn't. I was outside all the time. I was outside, and I was determined to be outside. And God be praised that the baby came during the summer months, spring, summer. So that was really helpful. So, I created the Soul Care plan or postpartum plan. I was like, okay, what's going to be helpful for me during this time? And I knew that community was. I actually also created a postpartum worship list. Specifically for postpartum. So I created that, and I would play that and listen to that, because it's like you don't have that same ability to connect with God, and that's something that's like really important to me. I set up literally a monthly plan with each of my friends. Okay, we're going out, we're gonna do this, and my friends were very open to that. We're gonna go take a walk, do something, because I found that on the days that I was in the house, reoccurring was the days that Princeton would come home and I'd look like a deer in headlights, like this, and he'd be like, "Okay, you need to get out of the house. Like, you need to go and be outside." So getting all of that vitamin D, and I think what is important is realizing that when you're going through a postpartum period, it's like you're getting little of everything. Yeah. Little food, little sleep, little time, little everything. And so that is just basic mental health things that you need. And so how do you find ways to supplement that as much as possible? Right. So that's what I did. And I also like sent a message, and I read this book, A New Mom is Born, or A Mom is Born. Yeah. That was really helpful as well. And I sent a message to my friend to be like, "Hey, this is what I'll need," kind of thing. And that's hard for us as Black women. But this is what I'll need during this time. I just need you to check in. And these are my symptoms or my signs of depression coming in. I'll isolate myself. I won't talk, which is definitely not like me. Right. And so it's like, if any of my friends saw any of that happening, like, okay, that's not like Jess type of thing. So yeah, I was very communicative. I spoke to Princeton a lot. Like, we talked a lot. And I think one of the things that was a blessing and a privilege is that he was home. Right. Because I'm an entrepreneur, so I don't get that EI for us Canadians. So maternity leave. I don't get that maternity leave per se. So Princeton got maternity leave, so him being home was helpful, in terms of a flexible schedule. So I just patted myself as much as possible, and I was just very proactive. I remember this mom, and I actually did this on social media as well, where I did a story. I was like, "What are some things you wish you knew about postpartum?" Yes, I remember that. Yeah. And I remember one mom saying that, "I wish I answered the phone more," and I was like, "Girl, you tripping? Nobody answered the phone." But now I get what she was saying in terms of like, if somebody's calling to check in, answer the phone kind of thing, because it's like then you're putting yourself in a space of isolation, when you don't need to, kind of thing. So I patted myself. I asked a lot of questions, and even like I asked my mom, I was like, "Bro, like, how is postpartum for you?" And she was like, "Post what?" Like, post what? Because like, and it was like realizing that my experience doesn't have to be her experience. Right. And so how can I make this better for myself? Absolutely. Essentially. So, I definitely agree with that. And I think for me as a mom, like dealing with postpartum, again, like the privilege of having your spouse home. I mean, for us, like Nado's off for like, we planned 2 months, but because we were still in COVID, he went to work, I think, for 2 months and then was home the rest of the time. So like, that was amazing. And I think what was a shock for me was when we moved and then I was home with myself and the child, and you're just for like 12 hours. What do I do with this? Okay, what do I do? What do I do with this kid? And I'm just like, come home now, please. Oh, yeah. So it was definitely like a shock to not like, oh, I don't know what to do with this kid, because I've had people around all the time. And I think, for moms that are new to a place, part of your postpartum plan, which I'm learning now, is like to connect yourself with, I guess, community organizations, something people that can help you through that time, even if it's just to talk to somebody, or if it's to go to like a mom and me like session or class or whatever, just being able to be around other people so you're not home by yourself every day. Because that's one of the things I did too. Like, I even joined a Bible study. I was going to the gym, and then I found out one of my friends is going to the same gym, so we went to the gym together. Right. Just like things that will fill your cup. Like, what is filling your cup? Because every day the child is taking from your cup. So it's like there'll be honestly moments where I wouldn't have eaten for the whole day. And I'm like, wait, it's 5 o'clock and I didn't eat anything. Right. So it's like, how are you filling your cup? And I think when I was getting to a point where Princeton was like, you need to get back into the gym and like be doing something outside of the house. I think that's another thing too. Thank God for like spouses that are wise,
right,
and that have sense and that can see
yeah,
when something is off. Because he was like, babe, something, I see the corner turning,
right,
and
right.
I feel like these are the things that you need to do to support with that. So I think that's also just like that communication in your marriage and being open. Well, for those who are married or may have a spouse, being open. And my therapist, I was seeing my therapist monthly.
Yeah, I think that was one thing I looking back now, I regret not continuing, because I was seeing my therapist when I had, but I just felt like, so I had to book the sessions during Nolan's nap time. But you know, these newborns, they just do their own thing. So he wasn't taking the naps at the time of the session. So there would be some sessions where he'd be with me, and I was just so overwhelmed by him being there. I was just like, okay, forget this, because like it's not working out. And it's like, forget it. Like,
because it's like, this is not my time anymore.
Right. It's like I'm caring for you, and then I'm trying to like formulate thoughts to share with the therapist, and it's like online, and it's just like, okay, you know what, this is not working, so like let's just scrap it all together, which I probably should just revisited. But I was just like, no, not working. But I do wish that like I had thought to revisit and then start again, either with somebody else or with the same person, just because like there was a lot happening during that time. But definitely having that touch point with someone who knows a lot about your history that can like help you process through what you're experiencing. So definitely a lot of good points to take away. So what would you say to mom like myself who didn't or wasn't able to get ahead of that curve? So let's say like a mom, their child is like 2 now, they're 2 years postpartum, 4 years, even 6 years. Like they're over the curve now. No one's looking at you like, oh yeah, she's in postpartum. Everyone's expecting us to like
to have it all together.
It's been 3 years. You're good now. Figure it out. Like there's, you know what I mean? So what would you say to a mom in that situation?
Honestly, motherhood is hard. I don't think postpartum ends till the child leaves the house. It's like postpartum is motherhood.
Right.
That's how I feel.
Okay.
I feel like postpartum is just motherhood. Okay. In general, I know it's coined to be 6 weeks.
It's not 6 weeks.
That's a myth. That's not true. And it's going to be up to a certain amount of time. And a lot of these definitions were defined by men who didn't go through postpartum. White men who didn't go through postpartum, but that's a different podcast episode. So you're still a mom, and motherhood is hard. And do what you need to do to fill your cup. Like, honestly, do what you need to do to fill your cup. I think one of the biggest things for me that was really important was because I know what it felt like to lose my identity in things and people. I refused. Right. I'm like, I am Jessica. Yes, I am JL's mom. Right. And I am Princeton's wife, but I am Jessica. Right. And I'm holding on to that. Yeah. And maybe a different version of Jessica, and that's okay. But I'm going to be me, and I'm going to be an individual. And so I was very determined to do things that made me feel like me. Absolutely. So whether it was for the first time, I think since high school, I got my nails done. I was there and I'm like, I'm going to do my nails. Yeah. Because I want to. So I'm going to do it. Yeah. So I'm going to do my nails. Doesn't need to be done. Right. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put the falls one on. It's going to be long. I'm going to have different shapes. All the things. I think it's really doing things that fill your cup. I think that's so important. I think it's inevitable. We just dive into motherhood, which you really don't have a choice but to dive into it. Because I remember saying to Princeton, I was like, one day it's like I had an epiphany. I was like, but wait, like we literally are responsible for this little human every moment of the day, and we are responsible for teaching them how to be a human. Yeah. And I was like, that's a big responsibility, right? But I am going to still hold on to me. And I think that's one of the things that's been grounding, whether it's my work, whether it's speaking, whether it's just going to the gym, just things like that. I'm like, I'm going to find the time. And I think one of the things that was hard for me was when people are like, wow, like your postpartum is going so great. It's so perfect. And I'm like, don't be dumb. No one's postpartum is perfect.
Right.
Like, I may be looking well, yeah, but that doesn't mean I'm not. And I think that's the thing. It's like, if you see somebody looking well during their postpartum,
or just in general, you think that they're well.
And it's like, no, they're still navigating. And also, it doesn't come easy.
Right.
They had to put in the work to get here. So, because I remember there's a point, Nikita, where I felt bad that Princeton was home. I felt bad that I wasn't like popped down and like in my bed with the covers over my head. I actually felt bad, which doesn't make sense.
Well, I think because like you've seen people experience that and you've heard that, so you're like, oh, like
that should be my experience,
right? And it's not. So it's like, oh, like
and it's like, did I have difficult days? Absolutely, there are days I was just like, wow, woe is me, like what the actual heck, like what's happening? But it's like I was just so determined to make that time for myself. I was like, even if Princeton was working at 5:00 when he comes home, I'm off this. Right. And he wasn't at home. He was not. Like, he was out on the road doing a side hustle type of thing, but it was a flexible side hustle. But it was just like, still being able to be like, hey babe, can you come home a little bit earlier, or whatever the case may be. But it's like knowing that you're still a mom regardless, and aiming to hold on to who that version of you is. Not actually, let me change that. Don't feel like you need to hold on to the version of yourself of who you are pre-baby. Yeah, because that person's gone. That person is gone. That person, your body has changed. Your mind has changed. I was saying to you, I was like, sometimes I feel dull. Like, I'm just like, I'm talking and like the words will just flow. Vanish. I was just like, yo, I'm a sharp girl. Like, what happened? You know? So just being able to know that you're going to change, you're going to evolve, and that's okay. Yeah. But knowing that two things can be true. You can be a mom and you can be you. Right. Yeah, definitely. And I think even like not feeling the shame about not knowing what you didn't know in the time. Yeah. And being willing to like pick up the pieces and start right now. So I remember when like, so by the time you were postpartum, I was 2 years postpartum, I think, about that. And then when you had sent me the book, the A Mom is Born, I was like, okay, I'm gonna read this book. And like the way the book is like crafted is like you have to do like activities and like that. Yeah. And I was just like, I'm 2 years postpartum, like should I even be bothering to do these activities? And then I was just like, you know what? No, I'm gonna do them because there's something that I need out of this. So I'm just going to do it regardless of the fact that I'm 2 years. And like, even so, one of the activities in the book is creating a postpartum pack, I think is what it's called. So basically it's a team of people that you ask to help assist you throughout your postpartum experience. So whether that's someone to bring you food, someone to just come sit with you, someone to go on a walk with you, like you just ask people to do things that will just help insulate you, essentially. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm going to pick people. But I was like hesitant to ask because I'm just like, people probably think I'm crazy. My child is turning 3. Yeah. What do I still need? What does this look like now? Right. So I was like, you know, I'm just going to ask and just revamp what that means, like for me now. And like, I think one of my thing was like asking someone to affirm me, like as a mom. Like, can you like just affirm me? Yeah. You know my character, you know who I am. Just affirm me as a mom. Yeah. I asked someone else to like, help me to remind me to move my body. Yeah. Every day. And then I decided, okay, I'm gonna take dance. Yeah. I'm like, that's something that I've done for years. Yeah. And like to your point of I'm gonna do something for me that reminds Nikita of Nikita. Yeah. And that's what I said to you. I'm like, I'm gonna take dance. Like that's something that is strictly for Nikita. Yeah. I leave the house. I don't have to think about my child or my husband or anybody else. I'm just zoned into something that I love and in that moment, right? And I think I had asked somebody else to just like pray for my mind. Yeah. Because I don't remember if I shared but on this podcast, but like I experiencing like seasonal depression. Yeah. I've never experienced that before. And last year, I think, there were so much things happening, like my son's health and whatever, and just feeling really low and just like contemplating like my existence. Yeah. I was like, okay, can someone just like pray that my mind is not overtaking me with like these thoughts that I know are not myself, right? So that's what it looked like for me being 2 years in.
years in, right? And just, asking people to join my team. And I think the funny thing is, and I've been saying to people, I think also in like not asking and just like as Black women being afraid to ask, I think we're also surprised when people tell us yes.
Yep.
We're surprised by that. And it's funny because I think more often than not, people will tell us yes.
Yeah.
We're just, I don't know if it's a fear of being told yes or being told, I don't know, but.
I think it has to do with kind of like, we grew up seeing our moms do everything by themselves. Right. I know I grew up with like a single mom, and I look back and I'm like, boy, how did you do this with 3 kids?
Right.
Like, my mom had a C-section. How did you recover? Like, how did this work out? I think it's because we grew up seeing our moms do it all. And so I think there's just this expectation that that's what we should do too.
Right.
Yeah.
We should do it. We should have it all together. Yeah. Okay. So if you could do it over, what would we change? So before you get into that, we know that depression shows up differently for Black women. We also know that Black women are 1.6 times more likely to suffer from depression. So considering that, what would you do differently? Like in postpartum or even before, like in this whole experience as a mom, if there is anything that you would change, what would you change?
What would I change? I think I would have a live-in doula.
Yes.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Or like, even if not live-in, like accessible, an accessible doula, to help me through, especially in the beginning stages when Jill was in NICU and I didn't understand certain things.
Right.
I remember asking the lady, like, okay, so like, when are we leaving? And she's like, have an expectation to leave during your due date. And I was like, what? She's due in June. She would have been due in June.
Okay.
And at the time it was May 17th and she was due June 23rd or something. So you're telling me I'm going to be here for another month? Are you out of your mind?
Right.
Type of thing. So just somebody to be there to advocate for me. Absolutely. I think that would have been really helpful. So like a doula. So a doula for home and a midwife, I guess, for delivery type of thing. I think that would have been really, really helpful, especially because JL was in NICU,
right? And
then Princeton had to be pulled between 2 places,
right?
So that's something that I would have done differently. Honestly, that's it. To be completely honest, and not because things were perfect, but because I learned so much. I'm like, I don't have any regrets about how things went. I think things went really well, and I'm really grateful for how things went, because it could have been so different in terms of the aspects of like depression. I probably would have seen my therapist a little bit more, maybe instead of every month, every 2 weeks type of thing. But I honestly think I had the best experience that I could have had. I think the plan worked out the way that it could have worked out. Right. But outside of the doula or midwife, I would say that's like, those are my 2 big things right there. Because it's kind of like our parents left, or like, oh, yeah, like, okay, so we have to like figure this thing out on our own. So just having somebody to walk us through the process. And I think that's just like, because I was having a hard time with breastfeeding, and there's could be judgment around that and things like that. So like, just having somebody just explain certain things. And I think that's the thing. It's like, they pack you up with this baby and they send you home, and they don't give you no instruction. Where's the manual? No, but where is the manual? There should be one. I tell everybody, when I got pregnant and I went to the doctor, and I'm expecting the man to list me off, like, this is what you should do, not do. No. And he didn't, and I'm like, okay. No. Yeah. When I left like the office, I'm like, where's my pamphlet? Yeah. Where are my books? Where's my? No. You mean to tell me we're just letting? Figure it out. Yeah. You just have to figure it out. I'm like, wow, this is foul. And that's the thing for me. It's like, I asked my doctor a lot of questions. Like Dr. Merlier, he wasn't never tired of me, thank God. But I asked him so many questions. Like, so how about this, and just like I advocated for myself heavy.
Yeah.
I was just
you
like,
have to.
this is what I need. This is what I need. And he was very like accommodating in that. So thank God. But yeah, I would say that would be, I guess, my change
yeah.
of what I would do differently.
Yeah. I think for myself, even like just if we were to have another child, considering the fact that we are not with like our kin, like our family of origin, I definitely would be like, okay, that registry needs to be stocked with different things, right? So I even like the whole night doula situation, or even like having people pitch for that, like pitch to pay for a night doula, or pitch to like pay for flights for like our family to come and stay with us at different times. I think I would focus obviously more on what happens after the child is here. Knowing that I know my experience is like 8 months with family. Right? And so like imagine now a much longer period of time without family. I'd be thinking a lot more of like, okay, how can I make sure that this experience is a total different direction by outsourcing the support that is needed. And there is nothing wrong with outsourcing support.
Nope. I'm in my outsourcing era.
Yeah, like
I love that.
I love that for you. I love that for you. Outsource the support, like especially when I think like for us, the situation that we're in, why are we spending all these hours cleaning all the things when it's just us? It's not like to say like, oh, like there's a parent who could come and help offload some of the parenting responsibilities. Like, okay, what's something that I can give to somebody else to do that doesn't necessarily involve my child? Because I want to spend as much time as possible with my kid.
Yeah, that's actually something I would do different.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up. So when my mother-in-law was here, because by the time my mom left, literally Jail came home, say Thursday, my mom left the Friday.
Right.
Yes. She was so sad about that. Then my mother-in-law came. And so in my head, I'm like, well, if she's here, I guess she spends time with the baby.
Right.
I don't know. So I would do that differently.
Okay.
I would spend more time with my kid. Just be like, yeah, you can do other things.
Right.
Give me money.
Right.
Yeah, type of thing. Just like, I think that was really important, because I think there were points Jay was looking at me like, are you my mommy?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, maybe it was in my head.
Right.
Kind of thing. So I think that's something that I would actually do differently. Be like, no, I got it.
Yeah.
I got her.
There's other things that need to
be done.
Tended to,
Yeah. So like, appreciated the help 100%.
Of course.
But I would have just held her more in that space. And not feel like I have to let her hold her all the time. This is like, I know you're leaving, but this is my
life. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's totally fair. Yeah. Okay. So as we were talking about like postpartum depression, and I know that like for us as Black women, it looks differently than what like DSM-5 says it looks.
I hate the DSM-5.
So
sorry,
like,
I rolled my eyes. I'm so sorry. I'm like,
and if you don't know, the DSM-5 is like the manual of what
created by white people, white men.
Of what would you call that? Like illness? No, not mental health.
So it's like, I don't know.
It described what the mental health condition.
Yeah, it's like almost like a spectrum of some sort. Yeah.
So that's what the DSM-5 is. Yeah. But so we know that the DSM-5 doesn't necessarily account for Black people or just people of color in general.
It does not.
So what are some of the things that we should look for when we are either in relationship with Black women or even ourselves as it relates to depression that may not be a quick Google search because it's not going to relate?
I think Black women, a lot of us, we're high functioning depression, right? We are high functioning. Yeah. And there might be a moment of crashing, there might not, but we just keep doing. So we don't, I think this is what it looks like. We do, and we don't pause. We don't press the pause button.
Right.
And so when we do, we're like, whoa, what are feelings? What are those?
Right.
Kind of thing, right? Oh, what are those?
Right.
So it's like, if you are in a space where you're just like doing, or you're around somebody who's just like doing, going, like literally and going, and there's no moment of pause, there's no moment of reflection, no moment of like taking care of themselves. I want to say taking care of yourself, I don't mean like just getting your hair done, and your nails done, like moving your body, eating well, different things like that, that is a point of concern.
Right.
If it's just like you're just constantly like working, you work, sleep, eat, maybe you eat, repeat, that type of thing, that's a point of concern.
Right.
Because as Black women, we are more high functioning depression than other races,
right,
unfortunately. So it's like really looking at like how are you pouring into yourself. And I think a lot of Black women, myself included, don't even realize that they were depressed.
Yeah.
They don't even realize it. It was not until I hit a wall, it was like, oh, depression, hi.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And so a lot of Black women, they don't realize that they actually are like, no, I'm good, I'm chilling. Like, actually, you're not. So the irritability and the lack of sleep, and not being able to sleep well.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. A lot of Black women do not sleep. I'm like, what do you do? I mean, I think now it's a little different. I think people are becoming more alert or aware, but people, you're not sleeping. You're just going. You're not eating well. You're not moving your body. You feel like not having friends is a badge of honor. It's actually a red flag. It's a red flag. It's not a green flag. It's red. Just things like that. Like your life isn't balanced.
Right.
You don't have a balanced life or a prioritized life that is assigned to check in to see how things are going.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So I know, like, obviously you are a therapist. I'm a huge advocate for therapy and just mental health services. However, if there's like a mom that isn't ready, whether that is because we know that therapy is work, that's a whole other conversation, but it's work, right? So if someone isn't ready to do that unpacking, or if there's like a financial barrier, what other strategies could we offer or maybe even suggest for people to start with as a means of like starting that process for them until they are ready for therapy?
I would say being honest with yourself.
Okay.
To be honest, like start there, being honest with yourself, but honestly thinking about your basic human needs.
Okay.
Like the sleep.
Yeah.
Honestly, sometimes people come to therapy, they need to lay down. You literally need a nap.
Yeah.
Before anything else, you need a nap. When we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Your basics, your food, your water, your sleep, your basics, and then starting from there. But really being honest with yourself and things you can do that help. You can read. Bibliotherapy is a real thing. That means like reading for therapy. Did I explain that right? Yeah. So it's like the book that we read, that's a form of what we do is like,
right.
Our DMs are back and forth of books. So you should get this book. Nikita, get this book.
Yeah.
Get this book. And so that's a form of bibliotherapy. So reading, community is so therapeutic. So thinking about things that are therapeutic, thinking about things that are healing to you.
Right.
So journaling, checking in with yourself. For those of us who are believers, going to church.
Right.
I think people underestimate the power of being in praise and worship.
Right.
And the power of being in the preach word. Right. Yeah. Applying that actually to your life.
I mean,
applying it. Getting into mommy groups, Bible studies. There's so many different things that we can do that I just feel like we isolate ourselves because we just don't feel like it.
Right.
And knowing that feelings are fickle. Feelings are valid.
But they're not facts.
But they're not facts.
Yeah.
Right? So you may feel a certain type of way, but that doesn't mean that is what it actually is, and not knowing that your feelings are a gauge, they're not a guide.
Right.
That's
so good.
So it's like, okay, the room is I'm feeling a certain type of way, but that doesn't have to guide your behavior.
Right.
Like, why am I feeling that? So being intentional with that. So hopefully that made sense.
Nope, that made perfect sense. Thank you so much for that.
No
how can we find you? Tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, I'm on the Instagrams. So I'll say them again. I'm on the Instagrams. I am She Speaks Truth. You can find our practice, the Soul Care Therapists. And I think I might still be on TikTok. Yes, I actually am on TikTok. And it's Soul Care Conversations with Jess.
And YouTube.
YouTube. YouTube. Soul Care Conversations with Jess. So
nice.
Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Thank you so much for having this conversation with us.
No problem.
I'm really excited to see like all the work that you're going to continue doing for our community.
Yeah.
It'd be great. Yeah, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for this amazing space. I'm going to say that again. Thank you for having me. And thank you for this amazing space. I think these conversations are really important to our community. And I'm sure generations before us wish they had spaces like these.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Good job, girl.
Thank you for listening and watching this episode of Melanin Combos. Melanin Combos is directed and produced by Nikita Buckner, editing, audio, and video production by Tamwa Ladajo. If you'd like to support Melanin Combos, share this episode with a friend or visit our website in the show notes. We are amplifying Black voices and creating a sisterhood of mom friends.